In the words of the great Chael Sonnen, I'm like Jon Jones. That sound like Sean Combs, and I got the biggest trombone size stones like John Holmes.
Yeah.
Welcome to the most overrated, underappreciated, most viewed, underviewed podcast of all time. Welcome to the Prince of Fresh Air. I'm, of course, your host, the beloved, the most charismatic man of entertainment. Now, today, I know it's been a while. I'm back. We are live. Put down the cheeseburger, put down the beer, enjoy yourself, put on them headphones, put up the speakers because we are about to have a good time. And my guest today, incredible young man, amazing actor, has been in a lot of TV shows, a lot of movies, theater, looks up to Denzel Washington, nominated for Best Actor, won a lot of awards in college, a lot of the plays and stuff he's been doing. He hosts an amazing podcast, amazing entertainer, very known for his card tricks. My guest today, please help me introduce myself. That's right. I'm solo. I'm doing this by myself today. I hope you guys having a good week, having a good summer so far. It's getting hot in here, and I ain't talking about Nelly. This weather's killing me, but I hope everybody's doing well, having a great time. And before I get into the main reason why I wanted to do a solo episode, I just want to give people a quick update. I know I haven't been posting a lot of episodes as frequently as I usually do. But this ties into the conversation I had previous episode with Stephen Cuoco. We've talked a little bit off the mic, off camera. And when I started this podcast 5 years ago, I wanted to interview anyone and everybody. And, it's been wonderful. I've met a lot of amazing people, a lot of cool people, a lot of people who've given me the opportunity to interview them. People who are professional, high up in their careers, entertainment, sports, whatever field they're doing. And, that's been the main objective the last year. I want to continue on that trajectory, that path of interviewing people that I look up to, that I aspire to be like, people I'm a fan of. And, sometimes, interviewing people of that caliber, it's not going to always be on my timeline. I got to work with them, their team. And so it's going to not always be on a consistent basis that I like. But don't worry, I'm working on some cool interviews. I got some amazing people coming on the show soon. It's going to be a great summer. It's going to be hot in here. And I ain't talking about Nelly. I'm looking forward to the future of this podcast. I'm working on a lot of great things. I put in a lot of work to get it this far. And, I just want to give a quick shout out to you, all my fans and supporters around the world, because this is not just a podcast anymore. This is a show. I'm an actor first. And, this podcast has been something that's taken on its own life. But, I couldn't do it without, my fans, supporters, the listeners around the world, even people who are just discovering the podcast now. Without you, I would not be where I am today. So I just want to say thank you. Now, in the words of the great Chael Sonnen, I'm like Jon Jones. That sound like Sean Combs. And I got the biggest trombone size stones like John Holmes. I will be talking about someone who inspired me. And the reason why I wanted to do this podcast was a tribute to this athlete, Jon Bones Jones. That's right. He recently retired this past weekend at UFC Baku. And it was shocking to me, something I'm still processing. Now, Jon Jones is someone that I've been looking up to for many years. Now, Denzel Washington, all-time GOAT. That's my acting GOAT. I would love to be with him. I would love to do a movie with him before he hangs it up in the next few years. Kobe Bryant, my favorite basketball player of all time. I don't care about Michael Jordan. It's Kobe Bryant for me, all right? Usain Bolt, one of the greatest track and field athletes of all time, one of the most decorated track and field Olympians of all time, if not the greatest, and Jon Bones Jones. You know, before I get into the reason why I want to do this, a lot of people have noticed. Now, I'm a big UFC fan. Every Saturday, I'm watching the cards, I'm watching the fights. You know, I have a lot of great fighters: Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Khamzat Chimaev, Islam Makhachev. The list goes on and on. But Jon Jones is that guy for me. You know, I got into MMA in 2016. I was at college, St. Bonaventure University. I was a big WWE fan, still am. But back then, I was heavy into WWE. I had a radio show at my school's radio station, 88.3 The Buzz. And, you know, we also had a separate weekly show talking about wrestling. I'm a big Roman Reigns guy. Acknowledge the tribal chief. That's right. I'm talking about me, not him. Acknowledge me. All right. But nonetheless, I used to, you know, watch compilations on wrestling while I was in the gym, you know, trying to work out, you know, get in shape. And I came across a YouTube video. I've never heard of MMA before. I never heard of UFC before. And one of the fellow actors in my at my school, Kevin, shout out to him. He was a wrestler. And I remember one time we was talking about it, and he was like, "Hey, you should try watching UFC." So one day I'm in the gym, and a video comes on, and it's a highlight of Jon Jones versus Shogun Rua, and never heard of it, you know. And I gave it a watch, and ever since then, it clicked for me. I fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with Jon Jones. Very technical, very creative, very dominant. And he was a young man at the time. He was 23 years old, became the youngest UFC champion in history. And, you know, ever since then, it inspired me not only to watch the sport, but to train the sport. And, you know, I remember after graduating in 2018, I picked up my first pair of gloves. I hit the gym I was going to had a kickboxing bag. And I just remember putting on that YouTube video, Jon Jones fights, just watching it while I'm hitting the bag, studying, learning the elbows, watching him do his moves and techniques, and inspiring me to get creative in that aspect. Then push me and challenge me and do something I've never done before, get out of my own comfort zone. And so, you know, Jon Jones retiring, you know, it hit me a little bit because I never saw it coming. You know, I'm a massive fan of his, always been one of his biggest supporters. And but before I continue though, let me say this. You know, Jon, if you hear this, your team, y'all hear this. I hit you. You know, I sent your team an email last year, and never got a response. But you know, that's neither here or there. But Jon, if you hear this, if you come across this, please bless me with an interview, please. I'm up here defending you. I'm a big supporter. But anyway, no, I digress. But I wanted to do this because with Jon Jones retiring, you know, the last few months, last year, really, there's been a lot of negative connotations on Jon Jones by the fans, certain media members. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of people. Kevin Iole has come on this podcast, well-respected journalist. James Lynch, very good friend, amazing MMA journalist as well, very well-connected as well. And I've talked about this topic at hand before, but lately it's been picking up in a more negative connotation. And I just want to come on and set the record straight on behalf of a Jon Jones fan. I'm a little biased, but I feel like people are getting Jon Jones wrong. And this all stems from the Tom Aspinall situation. So before I get into that, let me just list off the accolades of Mr. Jon Bones Jones. Jon Jones is 28 1-1. Now that one loss he has on his record, everybody sees him as undefeated because it was a disqualification that should have just been a no contest. But you know, overzealous referee decided to, you know, give him a loss. But truly, for 17 years, Jon Jones, since he started in the sport in 2009, has been undefeated. Undefeated, hasn't lost a single. He hasn't been knocked down. He hasn't really lost any rounds besides a few. Just pure dominance and pure skill. But let me run his resume to you because a lot of people, especially a lot of newer fans, people like to call them COVID fans, I feel like they forget who Jon Jones is. So Jon Jones, youngest UFC heavyweight UFC champion of all time at 23 years old, two-time UFC light heavyweight champion, most title fights in the history of the sport was 16, longest win streak. He boasts the longest win streak in the UFC's light heavyweight division, most title defenses in UFC history, defended the light heavyweight strap 11 times during his two-time championship reign, most wins in light heavyweight history, and inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, and also the two division champion because he was the heavyweight champion when he defeated Cyril Gane at UFC 285. Now, it starts at UFC 285 because a lot of fans, and I hate what this happens. This is not even just a Jon Jones thing. This is a athlete thing, a respect thing. I see people oftentimes, Floyd Mayweather, Jon Jones, Usain Bolt, LeBron James, Khabib Nurmagomedov. It's mostly predominantly in combat sports. But when someone is so dominant and so good at what they do, people want to see them continue on even if they don't want to. Because people don't want to see someone retire on top. And let me say this. I think a lot of people are hiding behind the fact that, yes, Tom Aspinall is a deserving young champion. But they're using him as a facade for the fact that they don't want to see Jon versus Tom for the pure aspect of the fight. They want to see Jon Jones lose. Jon Jones is not the perfect human. It's well documented. But, you know, some of the things he's been doing outside of the cage, brush-ins with the law. And I'm not here to debate that. You know, we all know what he's done. But inside the cage, there's been very few people like him. But oftentimes, a lot of fans of these sports become revisionist history historians. We've seen it with GSP when he came back and defeated Michael Bisping for the UFC middleweight championship. They called him out, say he's ducking, he's running, he's not giving Yoel Romero, Robert Whitaker, and some of the other names a chance to beat him and fight him and defeat them. Now we're seeing it with Jon Jones. We've seen it with Khabib Nurmagomedov when he retired in 2021, 2022. We've seen him with Floyd Mayweather. And I remember watching an interview Floyd Mayweather did with Brian Kenny, who worked with ESPN during his prime. And Floyd said it best. Said, what do you mean I'm ducking people? I don't want to fight nobody. Every time I turn around, you're saying this new guy is the one that should defeat me. And let's just be clear. People just want to see him lose, and that's the bottom line. Because once you lose, fans have something to use against you. And I think that is the biggest criticism for me, is that, yes, Tom Aspinall is a dangerous young heavyweight champion, but Jon Jones has put in the work to be where he wants to be, and he deserves to call his shots. And yes, Tom Aspinall deserves that fight, but Jon Jones don't need to give him that fight. What is in it for him? Now, people like to say, oh, well, you know, when he defeated Cyril Gane, he ducked Francis Ngannou before he can fight him. Let me clear this thing up right now. The whole Francis and Jon thing, none of them is at fault. You know who is at fault? The management team of UFC. The narrative for the longest time was Francis ducked Jon Jones. He ran away because he thought Jon would just destroy him, and that was his excuse to leave the UFC. Then, conveniently, the narrative changed when Tom Aspinall made his rise. Now, all of a sudden, oh, Jon Jones ducked Francis. And we all knew it all along. Jon Jones is scared of, you know, pushing himself and fighting up-and-comers, which he's done multiple times. The narrative keeps changing with Jon. When he defeated Cyril Gane, he was the number one contender. Cyril Gane is one of the most well-respected heavyweights up until now, apparently. When Jon was rumored to return to fight him, a lot of people thought Jon was going to get mollywopped in the octagon. They thought it was going to be a one-sided, lopsided, whipping to Jon Jones. Cyril Gane is this new breed of heavyweight, fast, quick on his feet, evasive, powerful, very athletic. You don't really see that a lot with heavyweights. Jon Jones makes quick work of Cyril Gane, who I'm a massive fan of. This is no disrespect to Cyril Gane. But Jon Jones, he made quick work of him. 2-3 minutes in the first round, submits him. Now, all of a sudden, people turn on Cyril Gane. Oh, he was never that good. His wrestling was trash. It was a tailor-made matchup for Jon Jones. Cyril never deserved that chance anyway. He's a fraud checked. That's what a lot of fans are calling athletes nowadays, fraud checked. I get people want to see Tom versus Jon. I'm not against that. And when I went to go see Jon Jones at the press conference this past November when he fought Stipe Miocic, I remember I did an interview with TNT Sports, and they asked me about Jon Jones versus Stipe and Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Would that be an interesting fight? Absolutely. But people are making it seem like Jon Jones is about to just get destroyed. The dude has won every fight he's been in. Every fight. People have said Jon Jones is washed up. He's old. He needs to retire. And he still beat people. And one of the things I don't like is people disrespecting athletes because they don't get what they want. I would never tell LeBron James. I would never tell Stephen Curry. I would never tell Alexander Volkanovski, Kamaru Usman, Israel Adesanya what to do. That's not my place. First of all, I don't even have a position to call them out. I'm not a fighter. Yes, I like training and I enjoy the sport, but who am I to go tweet Israel Adesanya, oh, if you don't fight this guy, you've been washed up, you're fraud checked, you're a one-dimensional fighter, you just got handed wins, cherry-picked opponents by the UFC. No. And I see fans doing that all the time. And I'm going to get into the media in a second about that because I have a big criticism with that. But I know I'm jumping all over the place. There's so much I got to get off my chest about this. I think with Jon, what people is missing, Jon Jones isn't fighting at this point, 17 years in, just to fight. We've seen it with Floyd Mayweather. For the longest time, people say he was ducking Roy Jones Jr. He was ducking Manny Pacquiao. And then when he beat him, what they said next? Oh, there's a new guy that's around. Why don't you go fight him? And if you don't fight him, that means you're afraid to lose. No, he's not afraid to lose. Jon Jones is not ducking Tom Aspinall. People need to get it through their heads. This is a business first, sport later. For someone like Jon Jones, who's been in this industry for 17 years as a UFC heavyweight champion, light heavyweight champion, one of their biggest stars of all time, it's strategic. He's done all the work that he needs to. Why would he risk something for very little reward? And I think that's what's upsetting people. They want him to fight Tom Aspinall because he's the new guy. Well, Tom Aspinall is only like 2 years younger than Cyril Gane. They're in the same era. Jon Jones already defeated Cyril Gane. What more do they want? When Jon Jones fought Alexander Gustafsson, one of his toughest tests, he passed it. He defeated him clear as day in the rematch. Then he fought Anthony Smith. He fought Thiago Santos. He's fought Dominic Reyes, which I'm already expecting people to say he lost. Regardless, he beat them. He went through his generation. He went through the DC, the Chael Sonnen generation. He's beaten so many legends that he has earned the right to call his career. Same thing with Conor McGregor. People often say, oh, well, Conor McGregor's wasting people's time and stuff. When you are the star of your sport, you get to call your shot, especially after you become, in the history books. Conor McGregor is the first two-division UFC champion, biggest star in the sport. And he has earned the right to make his shots, to call his shots. Now, don't disrespect to Conor. Conor is the biggest star. Jon Jones is the best fighter. Jon Jones has fought everybody that they've put in front of him. And I'm tired of this narrative that people keep saying, oh, well, Jon only fought bloated middleweights. Again, I don't mind people not liking Jon Jones. I'm not here to to change your opinion on whether you should support him or not. My thing is, please stop with the disrespect and legends. Stop disrespecting athletes just because you want to fit your narrative that you don't like them. So you're going to use any means necessary to tear them down. Rampage Jackson is no bloated, old, washed up middleweight. Chael Sonnen was no old, washed up, bloated middleweight. Shogun Rua wasn't no old, washed up, bloated middleweight. Rashad Evans, the list goes on. He's defeated so many people. Vitor Belfort, one of my favorite fights, one of his toughest tests. People want to look back and cherry pick, people's resumes. And I see it now with GSP, now that Jon Jones retired. Oh, well, GSP ducked this. He didn't do that. He didn't fight this person. At some point, you become older. You don't fight the same way that you used to be. Jon Jones is turning 38 this year. Is he old as a person? No. As a fighter, he's getting up there in age. And there's a lot more risk when you get older. You slow down. You don't have the same speed and everything. Everything ain't working as properly. Some things take a little longer to heal. Injuries are sustained a lot further and a lot quicker. And there's a lot more risk that comes with as you get older. So as a 37-year-old established GOAT, because Jon is the GOAT, let's not get that twisted. He has earned the right to decide who he wants to fight or not. Tom Aspinall, I'm a massive fan of. And I hate the fact that this whole rivalry, media beef between them two that the fans and the media has created has made me pick a side in this, because I actually like Tom Aspinall. And I don't think there's anything wrong with Tom Aspinall. But I think what people are missing is Tom Aspinall is not Jon Jones. He is not Conor McGregor. He's not Israel Adesanya. He's not Alex Pereira. He's not on that level yet. Could he be? Absolutely. But he's not there yet. Jon Jones has fought the people that everybody thought was going to wash him, beat him up. They was going to knock him out, submit him. He's been through the murderous role of fighters, and he's been doing it since the young age of 23. How many 23-year-olds are champions in their divisions, running Hollywood? It's not that many, and not many in general in history. Jon came into the UFC as a young man at 21, so yes, naturally he's going to fight the best of the best, and a lot of times the best of the best are usually 30 and up. So that's another narrative that I want to nip in the butt, because Daniel Cormier, one of his biggest rivalry. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. Amazing fights, amazing a trash talk between those two. And I think what made Jon Jones a bigger star. People often say, well, DC was 36 when he fought a 28-year-old Jon Jones. Again, no disrespect to DC at all. One of the greats. Unfortunately, he gets overlooked because of his losses to Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic. DC didn't start fighting until he was over 30 years old. Jon Jones was a champion by that time. Again, he came into the UFC at 21 years old. So what happens when you're one of the best fighters from another organization that comes into the UFC and you want to fight the light heavyweight champion as an older fighter? You're going to fight the champion, who is just honestly younger. And I don't like the fact that people are using the fact that Jon Jones has fought a lot of 30-year-olds to discredit his resume. These 30-year-olds were champions, former champions. And I think you're doing more disservice on those fighters than Jon when you call Rampage Jackson, all these fighters that I mentioned before, old and washed up. Because a lot of them went on to do great things after they lost to Jon Jones. A lot of them reclaimed titles in other weight classes. They went to other promotions and won belts. Since when is 32 old and washed up? I understand people's frustrations with this whole situation to a degree, but people like to flip the script to fit their narrative. And I just want to set the record straight, because I hate seeing someone that I've looked up to get his only one moment of true blessing and greatness to be acknowledged by the media, by the fans, by the sport, when he retired. Instead, people use this as a fuel to further their, oh, Jon Jones is ducking. Jon Jones is not ducking. Let me just put this out there. Let me get serious for a second. Let me straighten it up. Jon Jones is not ducking Tom Aspinall. Jon Jones wants to fight people who's going to mean something down the line for his resume and for his legacy. Why? First of all, there's a risk, absolutely, that he will be taken if he fights Tom Aspinall. Could he lose? Without a doubt, anybody can lose. But there's no upside for him. If Jon Jones beats Tom Aspinall, what happens? I can guarantee you what they did with Cyril Gane. Oh, he fraud checked. He was never that good, overhyped, overrated. They're gonna say, "Oh, what about Jonathan Almeida, who I'm a fan of?" Jon Jones didn't fight Almeida. He's on the rise. Why don't you don't fight him? What about Curtis Blades? What about Sergey Pavlovich, who people conveniently forget was on a rise, on a massive tear, knocking out people in less than 2 minutes in the first round? He loses to Tom Aspinall. Now all of a sudden he's trash and washed up too. Fraud checked. People need to realize Jon Jones is fighting for legacy, because at the end of the day, that's all we have. Yes, he can go out there and continue to fight up and comers, but what's the upside? Because at the end of the day, for someone like Jon Jones, a Khabib Nurmagomedov, a Floyd Mayweather, the people who are on the top, who never lost, who's always been dominant at what they did, suffering a loss for them is tragic, because you've put so much hard work into your career. You don't want to see that fall away in one mess up. And I'm not saying they're above losing, but what I'm saying is people are going to use this loss to say Floyd Mayweather was never that good. He got favorable matchups. Jon Jones got favorable matchups. GSP got favorable matchups. Khabib Nurmagomedov retired before he fought some of the other killers in the lightweight division. Oh no, he retired too early. There's always going to be an excuse, and I just don't like when fans disrespect athletes, actors, rappers, even a local McDonald's worker. At the end of the day, people put in a lot of hard work to get to where they want to be. And Jon Jones is at a point of his career. He's made the money. He's had the endorsements. He's been the champion. He's been on the top for 17 years. And he's already fought the up-and-comers, Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes, Cyril Gane. He's fought them. And we've seen other champions, and right now, current champions, who's fought in, the up-and-comer. And once they did, they get right back on track, fighting the bigger fights. Jon Jones deserved the bigger fights. You think Conor McGregor's going to come back to the UFC and fight some unranked lightweight or welterweight? No. Why would he do that? First of all, he's the marquee. He's the draw. He's going to be in the main event. It's not good for business. Yes, he could do that, starch them, for the highlight reel. But why would he give someone like that the opportunity to make the name off themselves? Now, again, I'm all about people giving other people opportunities. Jon Jones has already done that, and nobody's been able to solve the Jon Jones puzzle. Jon Bones Jones is the GOAT, and he's looking at it from his perspective. Okay, I go out there and beat Tom Aspinall. There's just going to be another guy that they call out for me to fight. But if Tom Aspinall beats me, I'm not saying he's thinking that, but if Tom Aspinall beats Jon Jones, can you imagine the comments he will be getting? Oh, you fraud check. You've been avoiding the hard matchups. You were never that good. Your resume suck. You cherry picked every opponent you've had. We all know what's going to happen if Jon Jones ever loses, if Floyd Mayweather ever lost, if Khabib ever lost. They will use that to discredit everything you've done in your past. And I think that is why Jon Jones don't want to take this fight, because he knows it's written in the stars as we speak. People are already criticizing his resume, criticizing his fight skills, the audacity to talk about one of the greatest of all combat sports athletes of all time, let alone UFC, to talk about him in such a way where he's some washed up middle German who's a journeyman who's never won a title ever, the youngest champion in history. No, I can't let that fly. And I want to touch on this point. Like I said, I've had Kevin Iole on, amazing, professional, one of well-respected journalists in UFC and MMA, and James Lynch, good friend, someone I consider a friend. I've had him on this podcast a couple times. What stands out to me is journalists should be unbiased, and they should report the facts and do the best they can to give the facts to the people. Lately, I've been seeing journalists, and I'm not going to mention any names, although some of them you might figure out who I'm talking about, have been using their platforms to be biased and make claims and judgments about the whole Jon Jones situation. First of all, as a journalist, as someone who does a podcast, I don't like it because what happens is you rub other fighters the wrong way. Because when it looks like you're picking favorites, you have favorites. Why would I interview you? Why would I come on your podcast, your platform, to talk to you when when it's clear I'm not your favorite? This guy is. Why am I coming? Why am I doing you the favor? And two, that's not good journalism. I don't mind people criticizing Jon Jones, Israel Adesanya, Francis Ngannou. I don't mind that. But when you start using your platform to speak your piece, and especially when that's the thing dominating your platform, I just don't like it. And I don't like the media using this opportunity to voice their own opinions on Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, whatever, picking their side. People come to your platform for news, for articles, for all the stuff pertaining to fighters. And when you're using your platform to speak bias and your own personal beliefs on situations, it rubs people the wrong way. And I feel like, we're in a day and age where social media is a powerful tool. Everybody's using their platform to, to boost themselves, boost their presence in certain spaces that they're in their profession, which I understand. But as a journalist, the biased commentary is not right. I don't like it, and we see it time and time again. I've talked to Kevin. I've talked to James Lynch. I've talked to other people, athletes, about this, where a lot of times it's rubbing athletes and other people the wrong way. Biased journalism, and especially when it comes to combat sports, where a lot of people have emotions tied to their records, their journey, their fights, and everything that pertains to their career. When you're using your platform to be biased and to pick and choose which fighters you want to support, it's just not right. It's not fair, and it turns people off. And I just think that people are misunderstanding Jon Jones. Jon Bones Jones is the ultimate prize fighter. He's done the hard work. He's been the champion for so long that, quite frankly, he don't need Tom Aspinall. He doesn't need that fight. Jon Jones was holding on to that belt because he wanted to fight Alex Pereira, the biggest fight he can have in the UFC right now. That name, Alex Pereira, everybody knows Poatan. Everybody knows his signature. Everybody loves Poatan. And we all know that would have been a massive fight if he would have fought Magomed Ankalaev. That would have been the fight for Jon Jones. Unfortunately, Alex lost. He will get his rematch eventually. But I think that's what threw the wrench in his plans. And this whole Jon Jones has been ducking Tom Aspinall since he won the title. No. Revisionist history again. Jon Jones was supposed to fight Stipe 2 years ago. He tore his pec muscle right before the fight. That's how Tom Aspinall became the interim UFC Heavyweight Champion, because Jon Jones hurt himself. If Jon Jones didn't hurt himself and defeated Stipe, Tom Aspinall wouldn't have been the interim Heavyweight Champion. And again, I love Tom Aspinall, but I don't like how fans are using their own fictional reality and facts to discredit Tom, Jon, all these other fighters. And so I think the part that people is missing is that Jon Jones ain't ducking Tom Aspinall. Jon Jones wants to fight the people. When you look back, when he talks to his grandchildren and his children when they're older, when the history books are read to other people, Alex Pereira is a much bigger name than Tom Aspinall right now. His resume, his experience, his championship reign, his belts, the things and accolades that Alex Pereira has been able to accomplish. I love Tom again, but Jon Jones wants to fight those people that will mean so much on his resume and bring the biggest payday. Because at the end of the day, fighters they know there's a time limit to what they can do. You're not going to be a 45-year-old champion, most likely. So you want to utilize the times that you have in your sport, not only to make the most money, but get the biggest fights, because those are the ones that's going to broaden your horizon, make you a bigger star, make you a bigger name, and bring a bigger paycheck. And Jon Jones has done it all. The Alex Pereira fight would be the only fight he will come back for, because at the end of the day, Tom can always lose. And if he does lose, people will turn on Tom Aspinall too. And people are going to say, oh, well, you're lying and making it up. No, I'm not. We've seen it all. When Israel Adesanya lost, when Kamaru Usman lost, what they called them, fraud check, they trash, washed up, they're journeymen, they're not the GOAT, they should not be considered in the Hall of Fame. We all know what comes with it when certain athletes lose, and especially in combat sports, boxing and MMA. When you lose, people like to trash on you. Jamal Hill is another one. People's been dogging him since the Alex Pereira fight. And like I said, I have the utmost respect to every athlete. Jon Jones is my greatest of all time in combat sports. I look up to him. He's done a lot of stuff for the sport, and I just don't like how people are changing the narrative, flipping the script, trying to make it look like, he doesn't deserve what he's earned. Jon Jones has earned everything, every dollar, every fight that he's gotten. And if he wants to come back to fight Alex Pereira over Tom Aspinall, he has the right to, because at the end of the day, he's pushing 40. He doesn't want to keep risking his health and his resume and the things that came along with his successful career to give somebody the rub. This ain't pro wrestling. This is not Stone Cold versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 45. This is combat sports. This is not the WWE. The WWE, and I see this all the time, people talking about, the older guys always put over the younger guys. Well, it's the WWE. WWE is not the UFC. Jon Jones putting over Tom Aspinall won't service Jon in any way at all. I'm seeing people saying, oh, well, Jon retiring is worse than him losing to Tom Aspinall. No, it's not. Because at the end of the day, Jon Jones is retiring as a millionaire and as an undefeated fighter. If Jon Jones fights Tom Aspinall and slips on a banana peel and loses, that will not be in the history books of Jon Jones gave Tom Aspinall a chance. It will be a big fat loss, and fans will use that to consider him not the GOAT anymore. They will say GSP, they'll say somebody else, because at the end of the day, people just want to see the people at the top lose. We've seen it in combat sports, we've seen it in basketball, we've seen it in NFL, we've seen it with actors, we've seen it with rappers, we've seen it with anybody in any type of successful entertainment career. When you're at the top for so long, they want to see you just get knocked down a peg, because you can't relate to someone like Jon Jones, someone who's never lost, someone who's made so much money that, he doesn't need to fight anymore. Jon Jones could have retired in November against Stipe when he defeated him. But he wanted one more payday, one more for the highlight reel, one more big fight. And unfortunately, he didn't get it as of this moment. But, as much as I love Jon Jones, I hope he enjoys retirement. He enjoys his future endeavors. I'm still processing the fact that he will not be competing anymore in the octagon. But I lived out a childhood dream, if you will, getting to witness and see him in person at Madison Square Garden against Stipe. One of the coolest experiences of my life. And, I wish him a happy retirement. I hope that he does so well in acting. I will see him in the movie. I will act alongside him. That's one thing I could probably outshine him on. But in the octagon, I ain't fighting that dude. But, I don't want to make this a long one. I just wanted to give you guys a nice episode, because I know it's been a couple weeks since the last one. And, I'm a big UFC guy. I love UFC. But like I said, I'm going to have a lot of great guests coming on the show soon. You know, it's going to be a great summer, great 2025. We're still kicking, we're still rocking, we're still rolling. And no matter what you're doing, whether you're watching UFC, you're eating a cheeseburger, you're on your way from work, you're watching the kids, you're with your buddies, you know, I hope you enjoy this podcast, and I hope that you stay along for the ride because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. You know, I'm working hard behind the scenes. You know, I do all of this on my own, you know, and I love it. I love every second of doing this. So, you know, thank you guys for tuning into this rant. I know I know not everybody's a UFC fan, but you know, when you look up to somebody who inspires you, you know, you just don't want to see people, you know, dog them. You know, like I said, his personal life, I'm not here to talk about, you know, but if it was Denzel, you know, I'll be right here with this light on and this camera checked on and this microphone. So, you know, I hope everybody's doing well. Have a great summer. Have a great week. You know, it's going to be hot. It's going to be nice. A lot of great things are happening. You know, stay tuned because I got some great guests coming up. And like I always say, a helping hand is a better hand. I'm the Prince of Fresh Air, the most charismatic man in entertainment. Beat that, Dwayne Ryan Johnson. And I'll see you in my next episode.